Okay, folks. Let's see. It's Friday afternoon, and yesterday, and the day before, I was kind of farting around with the AR turntable that we've basically been restoring. That turntable was basically done. Got to the end of that to wire the motor up. I had to order startup capacitors and so on and so forth. But at the end of the project, we got the original motor wired up. It didn't want to start on its own. I had to give it a little bit of an assist by trying to slightly rotate the table and get it going. And then once you would do that, the table would go ahead and run, and it would run 32 RPMs or so, and that was about it. After oiling the motor and giving it some run-in time, it just died altogether. And when we did the initial startup, the motor rattled. Those motors are known for doing that, so it had a lot of shimmer, shake, rattle, whatever you want to call it, to that motor, even on startup. So this was a heavily worn table to begin with. So I told the owner, this motor's toast. So we started looking for some alternative ideas, and I can order one online, and it's about $85, and it's supposed to retrofit. It's not the original motor, and there's a little bit of work that has to be done there to make that work. So that was an option. And so I've been doing a lot of cleanup work around my property. And in the process, I was kind of scanning stuff that was in the boneyard that we were going through and just getting rid of finally, once and for all. And so as I was, scanning items just to make sure that it's like, hey, did I overlook anything that was useful on this, prior to it, ending up in the scrap pile? And as I was looking at a turntable I had laying there, I seen this and I started thinking, this is a 12 volt driven motor. And I've got the control board there for it. The motor runs. As you can see, there's speed adjusters right there on that board. So I took the motor and control board out of what was left of that turntable. And so once I did that, I had to retrofit this mounting flange from the factory motor onto this 12 volt motor. And I had to enlarge the center hole, and I had to enlarge the mounting holes. That way I could grab onto the threaded holes that were already in this 12 volt motor. And so I managed to do all that. That was successful. And then, so the next hurdle I had to go over was, the pulley on this motor wasn't going to work, and so I had to try to get that pulley off this motor without ruining the motor. And I'll tell you, folks, that's difficult. When you're doing a lot of pulling on these motors, it's really easy to ruin one of these motors. So I managed to get the pulley off, and when I did, I actually bent the shaft just slightly, and it got a little wobble in it. I did manage to bend it back straight. So that was all good to go. Got the flange mounted on there. And so the next hurdle, like I said, I had to tackle was the fact that the shaft is a smaller diameter, and the factory pulley, which we absolutely have to use, would just slide down over that. And so I had to sleeve that shaft to come up to the size of the hole in the pulley. And so the way I did that is I put several pieces of heat shrink tubing over that shaft, and just kept heating those up and just kept increasing the thickness until I got it to a point where it's going to fit this pulley, nicely. So the next step's going to be to then test fit the motor into the bottom of the top plate and make sure that it's going to line up, the shaft comes up high enough and that everything's going to be at the right level. I think I'm going to be okay, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. Like I said, it's Friday afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock. I'm not going to do any more work with that today. I had another parts order come in for another project. So I'll probably save this for Monday. I am anxious to fit it all up in there and whatnot, because I know this is going to work. Like I said, I've already, the only little thing is it's going to have to be powered with a 12-volt wall wart. You know, I don't think it's a big deal, not a bad thing. But so yeah, I know that'll all work and whatnot. Let's see, the 33 and 45 speed on the original AR is accomplished by just changing the belt onto the top or the bottom of this pulley. So I have to make sure that, you know, once I get this all set, I don't know if it says on this motor. I don't think that it did. I haven't looked this motor up, but what the torque and the RPMs and all that on this motor are as well. You know, some of that's going to come into play. So like I said, I gotta test fit it up in there, and I'm just going to have to kind of play with it and see what we got. Hopefully this is going to work. If not, you know, basically we're going to be looking at a $100 bill by the time we get another motor here that we can retrofit into that. So hopefully this little idea that I've got works out in the end, and that gets that finished up. So anyway, that's enough on that for now. I'll be back with the video when I get this in there, and we'll see what we got. And I'll get you guys updated. And then, like I said, I'm going to shoot another quick little video here, because like I said, I got parts in for another project. So if you guys are following the channel, you'll see the video for that, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So anyway, peace out, guys. Talk to you later.